Part 2, Section 12. The first martyr for women's rights. With such words and memories as these engraved on their hearts and minds, those first pilgrims went from the Holy Land, May to Paris and Lua to America. Lua had now but one purpose in mind. She was determined to tell all the world about Baha'u'llah. The teachings of the Baha'i faith had taken full possession of her soul. Abdu'l-Baha had instructed Lua that in her teaching she must become as courageous as Tahirih, the greatest heroine of the early days of the Baha'i faith in Persia. Tahirih, like Lua, was also in her 20s when she first heard of the faith. Tahirih, a young poetess of outstanding beauty and intelligence, was called the Persian Joan of Arc. When she gave her life in martyrdom for this faith, a famous European diplomat called her martyrdom one of the most affecting episodes in modern history. Such was Tahirih's eloquence that when she spoke, one felt stirred to the depths of one's soul, was filled with admiration and was moved to tears. A professor from Cambridge University had written that the appearance of such a woman as Tahirih was a prodigy, nay, almost a miracle. There were special historical links between these two heroines of the Baha'i faith, the matchless Tahirih, peerless and unequalled, and the one Abdu'l-Baha said should be her counterpart in America, the immortal Lua. When Lua's mother was 5 years old in 1848, the first women's rights convention was held in Upper New York, the beginning of the movement for women's suffrage in America. In the same year, in the tiny hamlet of Badash in Persia, the early followers of the Baha'i faith held their first conference. T.K. Shane, a renowned Bible scholar at Oxford University, wrote of that gathering in his book, The Reconciliation of Races and Religions, saying that as a result of the coming of the Bab, prophet forerunner of the Baha'i faith, the distinctions between races and between male and female were at an end. Such things were discussed on that historic occasion. It was then that Tahirih, casting off the veil and breaking with the past Islamic subjugation of women, proclaimed, "I am the bugle, I am the bell," sounding an end to the fetters that bound her sex. Only a short time later, Tahirih was to be slain for her beliefs. She was martyred in 1852, the year in which another women's rights convention was held in that same Upper New York, just 19 years before Lua's birth. Tahirih has been called the first woman suffrage martyr. Dr. Shane in this same book stated, "If there has been any prophet in recent times, it is to Baha'u'llah that we must go." He also declared that Tahirih's insight came from Baha'u'llah, who presided at that historic conference in Badash. Shane credited Tahirih with opening the catalogue of social reforms in Persia. This was the heroine whom Abdu'l-Baha held up to Lua as the example she must follow. Abdu'l-Baha said that Tahirih was a brand afire with the love of God. He told Lua she must exert every effort to be like her. He gave her a prayer to recite so that she might achieve this goal. Lua, who knew of the glory and majesty of Tahirih, protested that she could not. "It is beyond me," she said. "I am too weak, too filled with faults. If I pray to be like her, God will know that I am lying." Abdu'l-Baha said, "You must." He told Lua to pray always that she would be like Tahirih, who had broken with the past, cast off the veil, and provided the trumpet blast that had helped to herald this new day of God. Lua did her best to obey Abdu'l-Baha. Her heart was surrendered in unswerving love and obedience to every word of his instructions. Lua fully accepted Baha'u'llah as the messenger of God for this day. She believed in every word he had written as a guide to mankind. Because of this complete and unquestioned dedication, her soul was infused with the divine quality of love for all human beings. This universal love gave Lua an unconscious and effortless ability to magnetize and inspire those with whom she came in contact. One could never forget the picture of Lua standing straight as a lance before an assembly of people, her head thrown back, her eyes alight, opening her lips and pouring forth a stream of golden eloquence. For Abdu'l-Baha had bestowed a unique and special gift of eloquence upon Lua. Lua confided this secret to her friend Juliet Thompson, an American portrait painter. The master, she said, had promised her that she would have this gift. All Lua had to do when facing an audience was to rely completely on the strong current of her faith, turn to Abdu'l-Baha, and he would not fail her. The fact that Lua did indeed possess this magic gift of eloquence was testified to repeatedly by her listeners. They would sit spellbound by Lua's voice, entranced by her astonishing words, so simple, so basic, and so moving. Her friend Juliet Thompson often said that Lua reminded her of Tahirih and her ecstatic announcement before her death, "I am the bugle, I am the bell." Part 2, Section 13. Lua leaves the Master from sunlight into darkness. Lua's destiny was to carry her often between America and Akka. It was on one of her many visits to Abdu'l-Baha that her impatience for spiritual growth caused her to exclaim, "Oh, my beloved Master, I want to be perfected. I want to be perfected quickly." Abdu'l-Baha looked at her with a loving smile and gently shook his head. Lua repeated her request more urgently. "Quickly! I want to be perfected quickly so that I may truly serve thee." Abdu'l-Baha warned her that she could not stand the process of being perfected quickly. "Oh, yes, I can," she cried, "if it will make me a better servant to thee." Abdu'l-Baha was firm. The creation of Almighty God is perfect, but the perfections appear gradually. The seed comes to fruitage through the growth of the tree. But Lua's impetuous spirit would not be stilled. Patiently, the Master educated this eager servant, preparing her for the years of teaching that lay ahead. The message Lua was to carry to the world was simple. The religion of God is one religion, and all the messages have taught the same fundamental truth. In the teachings of Moses, we see the seed. In those of Christ, the plant. In those of Muhammad, the branches. In those of the Bab and Baha'u'llah, the fruit. All are part of the single, unfolding, progressively revealed truth. All teach the same inward truth about God, the soul immortality. But their outward teachings are adapted to the age in which these messengers appear and change according to the needs of society. All their laws, principles and institutions are for the betterment of mankind. Mr. Thornton Chase, the first person to accept Baha'u'llah in America, expressed these truths as he felt them after his pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Thornton Chase became a Baha'i just a few months before Lua. He followed her to the presence of Abdu'l-Baha and wrote, "5 days we remained within those walls, prisoners with him who dwells in that greatest prison. It is a prison of peace, of love and service. No wish, no desire is there save the good of mankind, the peace of the world, the acknowledgement of the fatherhood of God, and the mutual rights of men as his creatures, his children." The hour came for Lua to leave Akka yet another time. She was being sent out into the vineyard of God. Abdu'l-Baha told her to put into practice all that she had learnt there at the heart of the faith. The instructions of Abdu'l-Baha were loving and tender. Yet to Lua, leaving the presence of Abdu'l-Baha was the worst possible disaster. She felt she had been banished from her beloved master. She felt that Abdu'l-Baha was sending her away to teach her patience. She knew only too well how desperately she needed to learn this lesson, but leaving Abdu'l-Baha was like going from the sunlight into the darkness. A sudden transition from life to death. It was almost too much for Lua's spirit. But she bowed her head meekly and obeyed. She returned at once to America.